Welcome to Fantasy Fanline.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanline, the fantasy football call-in show, putting you on the air with industry experts every week of the regular season from here on out until the end. I am your host, Greg Scalera, here as always with my co-host, Sanchi Value. Sanch, how you doing, man? How's August treating you so far?
I'm doing great. We're getting so much closer. That Hall of Fame game was a little tease. Wasn't the best game to watch, but it was football. It was football.
That's tradition, man. You know, we're here in August. It's draft season is basically upon us. I know that every time I feel like I'm in too many leagues, I talk to you and I feel better about my league situation because you're in like 4 times as many as I am. How many drafts in are you already?
Just my dynasties, man.
Okay. I'm not hitting a lot of best balls early in August.
I'm not doing many best balls this year. I'm gonna do that one with you and Sinker.
Yep.
Who we're gonna have on. Sinker actually hit me up and he said he lost power, so he's currently on the way to his buddy's house, and we will try to get him on the stream ASAP.
Our expert guest will be here at some point, but Sanchi and I are here to entertain you.
I think I see him.
Oh, is he on his way in?
I think he's on his way in.
Well, we will introduce him in just a minute. I have some housekeeping to go through before that. Welcome back to the show. If you've been with us already, you know what we do here. For those of you listening for the first time, this is Fantasy Fanline, and we feature expert guests from the fantasy football industry each and every week to take your calls and answer your questions about fantasy football right here on the air. So I'm going to put the number up on the screen here. You can call into the show at any point in the broadcast. 618-FANLINE is our number, or you can leave a comment wherever you're watching the show, and we will be able to see it here and answer it live on the air. If you are too shy to call in, it's okay. This is a judgment-free platform. Every episode is also available in audio format the following day on all major podcast platforms. So please subscribe to us wherever you're watching right now or listening to us right now, and leave a like on the stream if you can. It really helps us out a lot. You can follow the show on all social platforms at Fantasy Fanline, and you can find us individually, if you so choose, on Twitter at the Greg Scalera for me and at Sanchi Value for Sanchi Value. You know, I've had some people ask me if Sanchi is your real name, and I think I'm going to leave that to mystery. I'm going to let people make that decision for themselves, whether they think your birth certificate says Sanchi Value or not. If it doesn't, it should. I'll leave it at that. You can visit our website, fantasyfanline.com, which we're working on a new website, which should be live very soon, as soon as my real job stops paying me so much to do money for them instead of this stuff. Which, if they're listening, I hope please don't stop paying me to do that stuff. But in the meantime, you can find our schedule of upcoming guests and submit a question to our mailbag. If you can't join us live, all that stuff's over at fantasyfanline.com. So without further ado...
One sec.
Please.
I'll start the GoFundMe, and we can legally change my name to Sanchi Value.
So
I'm not paying a cent.
You're confirming that it's not Sanchi Value.
When it's fantasy season, it's Sanchi Value.
Is Sanchi short for something like Sancholomew?
Nope. Just kind of a nickname I got when I was younger. It had many different forms and variations, and I don't know, just kind of stuck with it.
I like it, man. It's catchy, and I've seen you on social like use the 5 instead of the S to get but then people are like, "Oh, 5 Anchi? Like, what kind of a name is that?" And I'm like, "Is it any less weird than Sanchi?" Like,
I have no time for any haters, Greg. No time.
I respect that. And speaking of people I respect, I'm going to bring in our expert guest for today's show, Sinker FF. Dude, welcome to the stream. JC, how you doing, man?
Boys, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Thanks for being on the show. What happened with your power today, man?
You know, man, just running through some notes and the lights go off and had to make a little last minute adjustment, scoot over to my friend Steven's house, but we're here.
Shout out to Steven. Thanks for putting you up today. I feel like it's our fault. You know, we have a lot of rivals. It's a very popular show that we are, and it was probably one of our arch nemesis call-in shows out there who like hanging outside your power lines and just like snipped it with the big hedge trimmers at the last minute. So
yeah, man. So Steven's in one of my home leagues, so I wasn't trying to do it over here. I don't want him to have this inside information. So
I assume you have him tied up in the closet with his ears plugged and his eyes blindfolded.
For sure. But
Well,
hey,
thanks
man,
for
appreciate being on. Greg, it's nice to meet you. I'm JC Sanchi. I don't know your real name. I'm always gonna call you Sanchi. Doesn't matter. That's how I know you. So
For all
Works
intents
for
and
me.
purposes, it's Sanchi. Sinker, dude, thanks for coming on, man. Why don't you tell the people tuning in today a little bit about what you do, where they could find you on Twitter, and so forth?
yeah, man. So you can find me on Twitter at SinkerFF. I'm really just a huge fantasy head. I've been playing fantasy football for 10, 12 years. Sleeper, you find me in any of those mock drafts. I do a ton of best ball, FFPC, Dynasty. I just love to consume fantasy information.
Right on. Man of the world, man of the people. Glad to have you on the show today to share some expertise. Anyone who
thanks.
wants to talk to Sinker today can call on 618 Fanline for the next hour or so. We're going to be live. And, like I said earlier, if you don't want to give us a call, you can drop a comment wherever you're listening. We did get some questions in advance through our website on the mailbag that we'll go over today. Hopefully, Sanji has shared those with you. If he hasn't, good luck. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, man.
They're not hard. So we're gonna talk some mailbag, and later on in the show, we're gonna talk a little bit about some kind of late round picks that we like. After ADP 100, we decided to pick somebody from each position to talk about today, so you know who to kind of throw a dart at if you punt a position, or just when the night's getting late, you've had a few drinks, and you're like, I don't really know how to use my own brain anymore to judge these picks, so let me pull up this list that I got from Fantasy Fanline. So that's what we're gonna do for you guys today. Without further ado, let's jump into some mailbag questions. This is the big piece of news, and I'm glad somebody asked, because even if they didn't, we were going to talk about it. What are your Deshaun Watson expectations for 2022, and what does it mean for his weapons over on the Browns? Sanchi, let me get your take on this first.
I don't think he's going to play, man.
At all.
I don't think he's going to play at all. I think the NFL's, they're going after that full year suspension, and I think that's right. I think it should be at least a year. We talk football, not law here, but that's all I'll say about that.
Just for some context, I should have mentioned before I kicked it to you. For anyone who hasn't been following this, which, most people have, but in case you're under a rock for football purposes, Deshaun Watson is facing many, 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 many allegations of sexual misconduct in massage sessions with personal massagists. Masseuses is the word I was looking for there, not massagists. The NFL presented findings on this matter to retired Judge Sue Robinson, who served as an independent arbitrator, and she returned a recommendation for a 6-game suspension. The NFL appealed and is seeking a full season minimum, which is what Sanchi just referred to. So you think that's going to stick, and they're going to? I'd be surprised if it didn't. For anyone not familiar with the Sue Robinson situation, Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, has been under scrutiny for some time for serving as judge, jury, executioner on all NFL punishment matters. And this feels like a formality to bring somebody else in to give a ruling, just so that the NFL anyway could be like, no, we appeal it to ourselves, and we will make the decision whether or not we accept our own appeal. So, Sanchi, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, and if he somehow only gets to 6 games, it obviously increases, every Browns offensive player as far as fantasy. It gives me much more confidence in taking Chubb, Kareem Hunt, obviously the pass catchers. But with that being said, even if he gets to 6 games, he's not going to be in any of my teams.
Yeah, I think the answer to Luke's question really is we still don't know at this point. We're hoping we do before everybody really starts drafting. But I think that 6 games is the least likely scenario at this point, now that they've appealed, because I feel like either it's going to be the full season, or there is a world where Watson is able to appeal this through federal court and they grant him a delay on this through the entirety of this coming season. So it's possible he plays every game. So I think it's all or nothing at this point. Sinker, where are you at on this?
Yeah, I'm with Sanchi. I don't think he's going to play this year, but let's just say he does get 6 games, and if he does, I'm going to buy in on that. I'm going to try to get him on my team. Go with the strategy of maybe getting a bottom quarterback for the first 6 weeks, or just streaming a quarterback and then having Deshaun to kind of fill in. So
now, is that in a 1 quarterback league? You're willing to hold Watson for 6 weeks?
Yeah, that's never ideal. You don't want to hold an extra quarterback, but you're just streaming for 6 weeks, and holding a guy like that is going to return value in the second half of the season. Deshaun, when he plays, is elite. He's up there for me with Mahomes, Allen, Burrows this year if he plays. But yeah, if it's not 6 games, I'm not touching it at all. So
Yeah, and I mean, fortunately, by the time the year starts, I think we'll have an idea of whether or not he's coming back. Obviously, no point holding him if it's an indefinite suspension. He's probably gone for the year. But if he's,
For sure.
if we get a confirmation of 6 games, there's a very slim window of quarterbacks I'm willing to hold on a deeper bench, and I think he's probably one of them. So I totally agree with that take. In the meantime, we get Jacoby Brissett under center for Cleveland.
Yeah.
What does that mean for Amari Cooper? It's probably not great news, right?
I don't even know if I like Cooper with Watson.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has any more left in the tank.
Yeah, I'm with
he
you,
does.
Sanchi.
I'll take a shot at him with Watson.
Yeah, I've bought into Amari Cooper the past 2 years, and I've always expected more than what he returned. So he's an elite wide receiver, but he's just not in that range of where he's being drafted. There is better targets, in my opinion, that have higher upside.
Well, the fantasy community in all of its wisdom is punishing Amari Cooper right now for the quarterback situation there. He's currently going wide receiver 31 on underdog, ahead of like Michael Thomas, Elijah Moore, Adam Thielen, Devonta Smith, Hopkins, Lazard, Kadarius Toney. He seems like the obvious name that I would probably take ahead of Amari Cooper, along with like maybe Thielen, Devonta Smith.
Yeah.
I'd probably take all of those guys over.
Yeah.
All of them?
Give me Elijah Moore over him all day.
Yeah.
I agree.
There's a few question marks on that list. He's going around like the Michael Thomases and the Hopkins and other guys who, people might be scared off of right now. I think that's probably about the right spot for him. I don't think I'm taking any shares of Amari Cooper in that range unless we get news that the federal court is delaying the suspension through the entirety of the season, which I don't expect, but not impossible. So if you're drafting right now before we know, if he slips maybe a couple rounds past that, even
has to be a crazy value.
Yeah,
it has to be a crazy value for me to even think about it.
In the meantime, if it's Jacoby Brissett for the year, I mean, what does that mean for the running backs over in Cleveland? Brissett can run a little bit. He ran for 200 plus yards in 2017 and 2019 when he played mostly full seasons. But he started 11 games in 2020 and 2021 and didn't run nearly as much. So those days might be behind him. What do you guys think?
I think Kareem Hunt's matchup proof. I love Chubb. We all know he's an elite talent, but he might be one of those players that's just better for real life than actual fantasy. I would love Chubb way more if Watson didn't get any games. Like, give me Nick Chubb in the second round, Watson starting week 1. But as far as like if the Browns have beef brisket in and they're down, I think Kareem Hunt, pass catching running backs are fantasy gold. I don't know if you guys agree with me on the Hunt take. I think he's a great back to target if you go 0 RB or hero RB.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel?
Yeah,
I'm full PPR.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you with Hunt. I like Hunt's ADP over Chubb's. It just depends where he's going. I know like Sleeper has him, I've seen him go as early second, but yeah, underdog playing best ball. He's mid third, sometimes falling, deeper than that. I'd consider him there, but it just depends on your build. If you're going elite wide receiver early and you just want a safe running back to kind of support that, Chubb's not bad. But yeah, with the timeshare there and the opportunity, it's not going to do it for me.
If I see Nick Chubb in the third round, I'm pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's where best ball, man. That's where he's going. So
I like that.
The one thing that makes me a little nervous about Kareem Hunt as a pass catching back to lean on is that I still think the team's going to be good, even with Jacoby Brissett. So I don't think they're going to be in a ton of situations where they're trailing a lot. They're going to be throwing a lot. I don't think they're going to score a lot of points. That's my problem. I think it's going to be a lot of low scoring games running with Chubb. I still love Chubb as a talented guy. He's going to get a lot of touches in this offense. It's going to have to run through him and Hunt. So I don't think Brissett's going to be pushing the ball downfield. So. We've seen talented running backs succeed in mediocre offenses before. Maybe not so much with the split that we see between Chubb and Hunt, where it's like 60-40, 65-35. But I'm not scared off of either guy, to be honest. So, any closing thoughts on Cleveland? Any other pass catchers worth mentioning? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth touching. I was going to talk about him as a guy to touch outside of the 100 ADP, and that's Njoku. Brissett, when he did start in 2017, Jack Doyle finished as a tight end 8. So Brissett likes to target the tight end. Njoku just got a big contract. That might be his guy. So I know this is a run-first offense. It's going to be with Brissett under center. It will be, defense. But I think Njoku, if you're waiting on tight end and you want to kind of hold out to the end, I think he's a good target.
Any concern about Harrison Bryant taking that mantle?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bryant is a great tight end. I actually own both of them on one of my dynasty teams, but I mean, they paid Njoku, and so I think that speaks volume to what they want. You pay a guy, you're going to give him targets.
Follow the contracts.
Yeah, sure. I think so too. Bryant's getting a lot of hype from the community just on the eyeball test and metrics and things. But if you look at where the money went on the team, they like Njoku. They're going to try and use him. And I don't think they're just using him as a blocker. So
no, I mean they've been trying to get a tight end in there to stick for a while. So hopefully paying Njoku is kind of speaks to what they want to get done.
Fingers crossed. We'll see if there's enough volume to support him as a relevant option. In the meantime, let's keep it rolling with the mailbag here. Got a question in advance from Big Ray in New York. What is up, Big Ray? How early should I grab Josh Allen if he starts to slip in a draft? So really, this is a draft philosophy question that I feel like we ask every year with whoever the top quarterback is. This year it's Josh Allen. Where are you looking for him if you're in a league full of smart players such as ourselves who know that there's value in waiting on quarterback? How late is too late for him to fall?
I'm assuming we're talking one QB league here.
Yeah.
He's 1.1 in Superflex, but in a 12 team, one quarterback league, I think the sweet spot's like the early fourth. And a lot of mocks, I see him going way too early for my liking. But, I wouldn't be mad at you for grabbing him late third. The guy can put up 31 fantasy points like that. He's a freak. But, I don't like taking quarterbacks too early. But for Josh Allen, if he's there early fourth for me, I think that's the sweet spot. And I think I'm willing to pull the trigger early fourth round.
Sounds reasonable. Sinker, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I literally wrote down the exact same thing. I think if I do want to go quarterback early, I'm looking for him early fourth. I'm typically not the type of person that's going to pull a trigger on a quarterback that's going that early. I just think there's better value later on. You wait a round or two, you can kind of grab an elite guy as well. If Herbert slips a little bit, or I'm big on Burrow this year, and he's not returning a fourth round ADP, so. If I can wait a little bit and get a guy that I think is going to be right up there, that's what I'm going to do. But if you are targeting Josh Allen, if he's there in the fourth, I would absolutely, slam that pick.
There you go. And in all my years of doing snake drafts, I think I pulled the trigger on an early quarterback once ever. And it was in a draft with Sanchi, and it was Andrew Luck. And an hour later, he retired. So
damn, man.
Never again.
Yeah, but he also snagged Lamar Jackson for dirt cheap. And he had
because of that, that was the Lamar Jackson year, so it worked out for me. So maybe that should be my strategy moving forward. I'll grab an early guy, wait for him to retire an hour later, and take the next breakout MVP. As long as I could do that every year, I'm gonna be fine. But assuming that I can't, I'm a guy who's probably looking for Jalen Hurts in the 6th this year. Russell Wilson in the 7th. Trey Lance in the 8th, but I see him creeping up to the 7th on underdog. Though that's usually the approach I like to take with quarterbacks, just due to position scarcity at the other positions. Dude, Jalen Hurts is going as QB6 right now. He finished the year last year as the quarterback 6 in points per game, and then added AJ Brown, and is still going at quarterback 6 right now. So that things like that, I feel like you need to really that's where the value is. But if we're talking Josh Allen, and if we're talking about taking him, I'm probably not necessarily looking at a round number. He's going mid-third right now in underdog around guys like Mike Williams, DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, James Conner. I'm taking any of those guys 10 times out of 10 over Josh Allen in the 3rd. But I really want to look at what other names are on the board with him before I think about drafting him. I'm not taking him before even the Travis Etienne, Breece Hall wave of running backs. Hollywood Brown, Terry McLaurin, maybe Allen Robinson. As long as those kinds of names are still on the board, I'm probably not looking at quarterback. I'll take him in the Cam Akers, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe Darren Waller. When those names with question marks start coming up, then maybe I'm looking at a positional advantage for Josh Allen. All of that being said, don't do it if you go early on tight end. Just don't do it, because you don't want to blow a back of the 1st on Kelsey or a late 2nd on Andrews and then take a Josh Allen in the 4th. It's not going to be a good time for you. You're going to have a hard time building out those positions where you need to start more players. So Big Ray, that's where I'm at. You guys have any other thoughts on Josh Allen or early quarterbacks in general?
He's so good. He just feels so
Yeah.
safe. Like what do you have, like 4 or 5 games over 30 points last year, like winning weeks. The guy's a
Sounds
stud.
right. And those
Yeah.
big mobile quarterbacks, when they hit, always feel safe the next year. You just never know. I mean, we're putting our chips in the basket if Josh Allen has the best chance of repeating this year as the quarterback one, but like we don't know. Lamar Jackson didn't the year after it looked like he broke the NFL. So,
Right. I mean,
want to hedge your. Go ahead.
that's a good point. I mean, do we think Josh Allen is going to be QB1 this year? I mean, he's probably the easiest answer to there, but is there a dark horse that could slip up?
Herbert.
I mean,
Kind of
Herbert.
Herbert.
For me.
I know you're big on Herbert, Sanchi. I love that. I'd love that. I think Herbert has everything in the toolbox to win league MVP and get QB1.
I'm gonna go back to Jalen Hurts. I'm gonna go back to Hurts as a guy who would sneak in. Certainly top 3 ceiling. I wouldn't shock me if he finishes as the overall QB1, assuming AJ Brown is healthy and continues to be the playmaker that he was in Tennessee.
Right.
I think there's a world where that happens. He spent a lot of time, Jalen Hurts, last year before his ankle sprain as like a top 4, top 5 guy, points per game, adding a weapon like that and giving him another year in that system. I mean, sky's the limit. But Josh Allen, I'm not projecting any of those other guys to beat him, but Josh Allen, I would be shocked if he finishes outside the top 3. That's
he's locked in. He's locked in top 3 for sure.
That's what makes him a great pick. Like he doesn't have to be the overall QB1. It's just that you feel confident that he's going to give you that top 3 positional advantage every week, and that's valuable. But not more valuable for me than, like I said, guys like Mike Williams, DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton. There's just too much of a need at those other positions. So
for sure.
All right. Speaking of Tennessee, we have one coming in from Tennessee from Gene. He wants to know, who is your biggest buy low dynasty running back right now, and what are you offering to get him? Sinker, I'm glad we have you and Sanchi on the show today because I'm not really a big dynasty guy. I'm a redraft guy. I know what kind of players I like in dynasty, just not as good at gauging their value. So, Sinker, I'm going to kick it to you first. See what you think about this.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest buy low right now, and the train might have already left the station, but it's Ramondre Stevenson, Patriots running back.
That was one of the names I had.
Yeah, I mean, the hype is real right now in New England. All the beats are on him. He's getting snaps with the first team. He checks all the boxes for me as a running back who can succeed. Damian Harris, they didn't sign him to a new contract. He's on rookie deal last year. They drafted 2 running backs this year. I know that's a crowded backfield, but to me, he's the most talented RB. So if you're targeting a buy low, if you can go to that manager and that manager still thinks that Harris is going to be the starter this year, you can get him low. I would offer, maybe a 3rd round pick. If you're a contender, maybe a second, try to get him on your team. He might be a second half year guy where he's just breaking out in the playoffs for you.
What kind of wide receiver would you offer, like straight up? Like, where you comp in his value as far as a positional swap?
Well, I mean, in Dynasty, I'm a wide receiver hog. I like to hold my wide receivers. So I don't typically buy running backs unless I'm contending.
Smart.
But yeah, I mean, that's tough. I mean, probably a rookie, looking at maybe I don't know, Jahan Dotson or something like that. A rookie
Jalen Tolbert.
Yeah, Tolbert, something like, Tolbert's great, man. Like his hype is super high right now. If you can flip that for, Ramondre, that'd be excellent.
I actually had Jahan Dotson down as the guy that I'd probably offer straight up for Ramondre. I think that's a great pick. I mean, people are scared of the New England backfield. I get it, the Bill Belichick system, but new offensive coordinator, and there was a world not that long ago where their backs were really relevant. Newer players might not remember that, but 4 or 5 years ago, before they had like 80 guys, they had like 2, and they were both great. And there's no reason Harris and Stevenson can't both be great. Sanchi, let me kick it over to you.
Little biased here, man, but this is a guy who was going 1 overall in dynasty drafts just a couple years back. He goes by the name of Saquon Barkley, and he's a league winner this year. And you can
Never
book
heard of
that
him.
one. You can book that one, man. Jason Garrett is gone. The offense is going to be completely different. He's 1 year healthy off the major injury. He's coming in looking like the best he has since his rookie year. I just think he's that top 5 RB this year, and I think this is the cheapest you're going to be able to buy him again. I think like the Barkley train is back on the rails, and it's moving forward. I know people have been burnt by him, just like McCaffrey, but McCaffrey's going top 3. Why no love for Saquon, man?
To be
He's
clear, by people,
pass catching back.
You mean yourself?
I've been burnt by McCaffrey and Saquon. And you know what? I'm rolling the dice again, man. If Saquon Barkley drops to me in the second round, that's smash. I'm flipping a coin with him and Aaron Jones, but I think the ceiling's high. I think the ceiling's higher for Barkley, like especially in PPR leagues. I know Jones he doesn't typically dump off to his running backs, but as I said, this is a new Giants offense. It's going to look completely different. And shout out again, I said last week, JJ Zacharyson, he's high on these Giants, man. And he's one of my favorite analysts, and I'm with him on that train. Like there's nowhere to go but up. The guy's an elite talent. He's coming into camp healthy. He's in a contract year. He's got a chip on his shoulder. And I think this is going to be the cheapest year you're going to be able to get him before he's back in that elite. I mean, he's getting older. Running backs, obviously, in Dynasty, they fall off quick, but he's still pretty young. He's a freak talent, and you could book him for top 5.
Just a reminder, anybody who wants to call in and tell Sanchi he's a homer can do so at 618 Fanline. You can find him on Twitter at SanchiValue. All of that being said, I agree with you. I'm in on the Giants this year, and I think I admitted that last week, and it made me feel funny to say it. It makes me feel funny to say it again, but I don't know, man. I like where they're going. I like new offensive coordinator William Kennedy. Saquon killed me last year. Lets us know on YouTube. He also killed Sanchi. I believe the first time I had you on the show, you were talking Sanchi up, and your first call-in question, you were like, yo, anyone else in with me on Saquon? We were all kind of like, no, and you were like, I'm doing it anyway. So, I respect that, and great talent, and people kind of forget that last year he was coming off of a big injury still. Like, he wasn't hurt anymore, but he had just been hurt, and it was the kind of injury where people typically take a minute to get back up to speed, so it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him look like his old self this year. I mean, he was a game changer his rookie year early on, just catching every pass that there was to be caught in the entire state of New York, it felt like, because there was nobody else at the time when he came in as a rookie. And there's a lot of pass catchers now in New York, which might be, it's bad news for his target share, but I think it's good news for the efficiency of that offense. And I'm going to talk a little more about Daniel Jones later as a potential breakout this year.
I love it.
Spoiler alert.
I love it.
Before we get to that, I'll give my answer for buy low running back. It's Travis Etienne for me in Dynasty. I am in on him the more I think about it, and I'm expecting that offense to take a step forward without Urban Meyer haunting them this year. But even if they don't, we saw James Robinson be great on a bad offense in Jacksonville, and Travis Etienne is a lot more talented for those of you who were not familiar with him as a college prospect. I think he's going to dominate the touches this year. And I think he'll be able to do everything James Robinson was able to do and more in that offense, even if they're bad again, which I don't think they will be. But even if they are, I think you're good. I think you could buy him low right now because we haven't really seen it yet out of ETN at the NFL level, and people might be sleeping on his upside just due to the general Jacksonville aroma that comes with him. But I mean, if I need running back help, that's probably where I'm looking, and I'd be willing to pay up pretty well to get him. I don't want to give a number. And Sanchi, did you give a price that you'd pay for Saquon to go get him in Dynasty?
I'd be willing to give up, a first and some change, I think.
Damn.
I really would.
Honestly, yeah. I think that is probably what you'd have to pay to get him right now, because there is kind of a groundswell of a redemption arc for Saquon in the fantasy community. Yeah.
I love to see it. I just want to believe. I
think that if there's an owner with any doubts, they're willing to cash out at that level because they feel like that's probably good enough price to split the difference of even if Saquon is good, not great. If he's great, you win that deal. So if you really believe in him, go get him. Sinker, where are you on ETN? And if you're in on him, what would you pay to get him?
Yeah, I'm in on ETN, absolutely.
Let's go.
I mean, just the chemistry with him and, Lawrence, I think it's going to be electric in the backfield. I'm bought in completely. That's another player he's not going to be cheap. Whoever owns ETN has held him for a year or acquired him last year for a cheaper value.
For this,
so it's not going to be cheap. Yeah, you're going to have to give probably, a first-round pick for ETN because, I mean, a year ago, he was 102 overall in most startups. So, I mean, that's what the manager is going to expect. So,
I think I would do it because I think that my first round pick next year, I would be hoping to land a running back as good as ETN in a situation as good as the one that he's coming into. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd probably have to take some time to look at roster depth charts and kind of project out to see if there's a great offense with a running back vacancy in the near future. But
Can I add Sinker and I do a dynasty league together, and I got ETN 5.5 in a startup, and I was jumping for joy.
That's ridiculous. That
It
should
is.
not have happened.
Yeah, I mean,
congratulations to you.
That format, though, I think it's 3 wide receiver. I mean, there's a lot of wide receivers going early, but I mean,
Super
getting
flex,
ETN,
3 wide receiver.
But yeah, getting him in the 5th regardless is insane. It's just one of those things I looked back on and I was like, how did he slip that far? I think it was before the preseason and training camp hype. I think you got him just at that right time.
I will add that my quarterbacks are Lawrence and Carr. So my positions my positions are looking good. I'm banking in on the Jags. BK, if you're still watching, let's go Jags. I'm with you.
There was definitely
Urban
a
Meyer's
point
gone
in the preseason where there were question marks about who it was going to be in the Jacksonville backfield, whether or not either of them were going to be healthy, and if so, which one of them was going to be the lead dog coming in. And I feel like we're getting a clearer sense of who that is right now, just from beat reporters out of Jacksonville. It's going to be ETN. I'm hearing a lot about James Robinson getting healthy. That being said, ETN has been the star of that training camp, and I think it's going to be his job. William Kennedy coming in from YouTube again. Duval, he says. Gene in Tennessee, thank you for the question about buy low dynasty running backs. I hope you're able to go get one of those guys based on our advice, and I hope it helps your team. If it does, let us know. If it doesn't, don't send us a private message. Don't post about it publicly.
Can I add 2 more quick ones before we move on? Tony Pollard, how much more does Zeke have in the tank? I think I think this will be the cheapest you can get him. I think he's going to be a huge part of the offense. And after that Hall of Fame game, how about Zamir White, man? Josh Jacobs running with the ones in a meaningless first preseason game. He's in a contract year. I think Zamir White's worth a shot. I don't think Jacobs is going to be there with the Raiders next year. They might draft the guy, but he looked like he was running really hard. I know it's one meaningless game, but he's just the guy to look out for and keep your eye on.
I'm glad you're here to talk about takeaways from that game to tell the people who didn't watch that game
it was rough.
What they should know about it. Yeah.
Over 30 and a half, though.
There you go. Oh, you hit?
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Sanchi had to get some action on that.
I felt like such a degenerate, but I won. It's not a problem if you win, right?
That's right.
No.
All right,
Speaking of winning, a team that I know you're high on this year, Sanchi, who is Denver's wide receiver 1, and are you taking Javonte anywhere in the second, coming in from Lynn in Connecticut, who I believe wrote in to us last week as well. Welcome back, Lynn. Thanks for the question. Sanchi, tell us about your love of the Broncos this year, and who you think is going to lead that pass-catching corps.
I already said Saquon's a league winner, but here's another one. He goes by the name of Jerry Jeudy. He's been a my guy since the Wilson move. He has potential to be a top 10 guy with Russ. He's an elite route runner with all the tools to be among the best. I think we're going to see it this year. I truly think the breakout's coming. I'm not mad about taking Sutton either. As I told Greg before the show, I'm in on Denver. I think both of them are going to be great picks. But if I'm looking for a guy with that true top 10 ceiling, Jerry Jeudy's elite. And I know he doesn't look like it if you watch his NFL tape. But look who he had throwing to him. This guy's got Dangerous Wilson now, and he's going to show it.
Yeah,
Jerry Jeudy, league winner. Let's ride.
Where are you on Javonte?
As far as Javonte, man, the guy is so damn good. He's a bowling ball, bro. Yeah. But, that I love him in Dynasty. That Gordon signing kind of scares me. We're seeing 50-50 split. We're seeing Javonte getting 75. Nobody knows.
There have been mixed reports coming out about the percentage of the backfield split. And I think that the truth is that they're not going to put a number on it. Like, the coaching staff isn't going to go into the season calculating the ratio of touches per game. It's going to be more of something that they probably feel out on a game-to-game basis. And if that ends up being 50-50 or 70-30, it ends up that way. But I don't think that we can trust that there's going to be a plan. That being said, Sanchi, are you taking him in the second?
It really depends, man. I'm probably not taking him over. Obviously, I'm not taking him over Barkley, Aaron Jones, or even Alvin Kamara, because I think his suspension is going to be pushed back, and I think he's going to play the full year. Complete opposite of Watson. I wouldn't be mad at anyone from taking him late second because the guy's an elite talent. I prefer early third as the sweet spot. And if I do grab Javonte, I'm probably going to try to get Gordon too. Because if one of those guys goes down, you have a top running back in your lineup. I think it's just a safe thing to do. I know a lot of people don't like stacking backfields, but I'm all in on stacking Green Bay with Aaron Jones and Jillen, and I'm all in on stacking Javonte and Gordon on my teams.
All right, I'm gonna get Sinker's take, and then we're gonna play some name game to see kind of guys that you're taking Javonte over or passing on him. So, Sinker, first question.
Yeah.
Where are you at on the wide receiving leader out of Denver?
Yeah, so I'm also a Jerry Jeudy truther. I've been
Nice.
a truther of him since he left college. I've drafted him in redraft every single year. I'm not going away from him again this year. Better quarterback situation, elite route running. There was multiple times last year where he was wide open, just couldn't get the ball to him. So I'm buying in on Jerry Jeudy. I do think, though, with Russell, I think you're going to see a similar situation to what it was in Seattle. I think it's going to be DK, Lockett type deal in Denver. It's going to be, if you play DraftKings, it's going to be every week. Pick which one is going to go off. It might be every other week. It's just, you never know. I think it's literally going to be up in the air. But if
FanDuel's better.
What's up?
I'm just gonna say that FanDuel's better than DraftKings, but
yeah,
go on.
DFS is what I meant. I play both.
DFS.
I'm a degenerate. I get lineups in on both, but yeah, man. If I'm picking one, I'm picking Jeudy. I'm not gonna give up on him yet. This is the best situation that he's been in, and yeah. So I mean, if I'm picking, it's Jeudy, but I do think you can't go wrong with either one. I think they're both gonna be elite.
Okay, and where are you at on Javonte in the second?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. Late second, I'm looking at Javonte. If I went early RB, if I, landed a guy that I think, if you get like Jonathan Taylor and Javonte's coming back on the turn right there, that's nice. A safe pick because Jonathan Taylor is going to give you 20 to 30 points a game, where you don't necessarily know that with Javonte, but you have that safe floor with JT. So it just depends where it's at and what you did in the first round.
He's going in the very back of the second right now.
Yeah, and I have been picking him there. I just think, it depends how you're building your roster, but his upside, previous podcast you guys had, I mean, it was discussed. His upside is like the RB1. If he gets the opportunity, he is going to return that value. So I want guys like that on my team, and he definitely checks the boxes. I know he's in the timeshare with Melvin Gordon, but if something were to happen, or if he gets 70-30, I mean, he's going to be up there. He's elite.
Yeah, that offense is so much better with Russell Wilson, man. I expect that whole offense to shine. I'm in.
And Javonte is one of the few guys in that range who can do that, right? Who can finish as the overall RB1. I mean, if you're looking at guys like a Nick Chubb, James Conner, I don't think they can get there. Leonard Fournette, probably not. But that being said, let's play some name game in a vacuum. Regardless of roster construction, are you taking Javonte over Fournette, both of you guys?
Yeah,
I don't think I am. I'm in on
let's
Fournette.
say half PPR.
Yeah, I'm probably on Fournette. The weight isn't a concern for me. The biggest thing now, though, is that offensive line.
The whole line.
With that going on, it'd be a strong debate. Again, it just depends what happened in the first round. But as of now, I'm still on Fournette.
They're going 11-12 right now on Underdog, with Javonte being 11, Leonard Fournette being 12. So just the back edge of that running back one tier. What about a guy like Nick Chubb, who's projects to be not so much of a pass catcher on probably a worse offense?
Yeah, that's tough as well, man.
That's a tough one.
Yeah,
I'm probably in on Chubb. It's a safer pick,
Okay, so let's find that line. James Conner's the next guy on ADP.
Yeah, I'm taking Javonte over James Conner all day.
Okay, yeah, I think that's kind of the teardrop off for me as well. Obviously, Sanchez taking Saquon over Javonte. Aaron Jones, you said it's close. DeAndre Swift, you guys both have ahead of Javonte?
Okay, absolutely.
All right. So that's where I think Javonte's tier is, around like the Aaron Jones, Fournette, Chubb, Kamara. That's a good place to be. Especially like you said, if you start JT. I mean, give me one of those guys as my RB2 for sure. But even if you go wide receiver early, I'm comfortable with any of those guys coming back around and getting as my one. I feel good about that if I have like one of those top 3, top 4 wide receivers. So let me go ahead and finish the round here and answer this question. We have 2 votes for Jeudy as the wide receiver 1. I think at the heart of this question, the answer is I don't think it really matters who the one is. I don't know if there is going to be like a clear cut target hog in this offense. I think they're going to be 1A, 1B. And obviously one of them is going to finish as the one on the team, but in terms of which one is more valuable in your draft, I mean, last time I checked, Judy was going later, and I'll probably just take the one that falls to a better value because I think they both have a lot of upside. Tim Patrick out for the year, ACL.
Yeah.
That is really what got me in on both of these guys because I'm looking at it at first. I'm like, okay, I probably do want to try to pick the right guy because there's going to be so many mouths to feed there. I don't know if there is going to be a clear-cut one. With Tim Patrick out of the picture, I like KJ Hamler.
Hamler breakout?
I don't think he's going to get the target share that Tim Patrick would have. I think KJ Hamler is going to be a nice guy a few weeks in best ball, have a couple of big games. But, other than him, it's like Alberto Quegbanom, Greg Dulcich at tight end. I think the wide receivers are going to get a huge share of targets from Russell Wilson this year. And I like the comp to, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett because I think it's the correct comp to make. I don't necessarily like it for their consistency because we're a lot of weeks where one guy hit and the other guy disappeared. And I think that there's a risk of that happening this year. But the hope with Russell Wilson going to Denver is that it's going to be more of an aerial attack than it was in Seattle, right? That's the dream we've been hearing for years. Let Russ cook.
Yeah.
And presumably he went to Denver in order to do that, to put on his chef's apron and his chef's hat and cook us up a couple of top 15 wide receivers. So if I had to pick one, I'm looking at some of my notes here. Jerry Jeudy, 96th percentile separation percentage in 2021. Still kind of an unproven fantasy asset. I think that's more so because of the quarterbacks who have been throwing him the ball. He's not really a red zone guy. He can see a lot of work from the slot. So I like him in full PPR formats. I think Courtland Sutton is going to probably score more touchdowns, be more of a vertical threat. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see Sutton finish with more yards and more touchdowns and see Jeudy finish with more catches. So again, it depends on your...
Not going to happen.
All right.
Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy season, baby.
Got a little bet going here.
A little side water bet.
Let's see. Russell Wilson had the 6th highest passer rating on throws of 20+ air yards last season, and I think Sutton's more of a downfield guy. So
That's fair.
I will be the contrarian and take Sutton over Jeudy, but again, I don't think that there's a wrong pick either way there. As far as Javonte goes, I mean, like I said, we're hearing mixed reports of their split percentages. Gordon is an underrated running back. I think he's going to not be phased out just because we want to see him be phased out. The will of the people is not going to change what they're doing in Denver. They like Gordon. They brought him back for a reason, but Javonte, it doesn't feel like it. He still had the 13th most running back touches last season as a rookie. And I think that's his floor this year. He's only going to go up from there, and he's going to do a lot with them. 13th most touches last year. He's going as the running back 11 right now in the back of the second. I think that's a value. I'm taking him in the second. I would look at him in the middle of the second even, probably.
I don't hate it at all.
Depending on roster construction, I think he's being drafted at around his floor from last season as a rookie, and I just think it's onwards and upwards for Javonte. So really barring injury where Melvin Gordon takes more of the workload, I think Javonte is going to do well enough, even in closer to like a 60-40 split. That doesn't scare me off in this offense with Russell Wilson. Let's go. Javonte season.
Yeah, I want a piece. Of Denver.
All right. So there you have it. So that's all of our mailbag questions. And we're going to talk a little bit of late round value here. But just a reminder, anybody listening right now live can call in at 618 Fanline if you want to get on the phone with us, talk a little bit with Sinker, talk with Sanchi, talk with me. We're here for you. Anything you need. If you want to drop a comment with a question in it, we'll be happy to answer it that way too. In the meantime, gentlemen, let's talk some positional favorites after ADP 100 right now. We're looking at the underdog ADP, right? Did everybody use underdog as a frame of reference just for consistency? It's okay if you did.
Yeah, I was using Fantasy Pros, but should be pretty close.
Fantasy Pros is my go-to for most of the year. Once we get into like this August time of year where people are actually doing best ball drafts, I start peeking at underdog because I do see a bit of a difference in people who are paying for these drafts, but it's pretty close. Love me some Fantasy Pros. If they ever want to come on, send somebody from their team on or sponsor us or anything, just an FYI, I'm a big time subscriber to those premium tools every season. But enough of me shilling to Fantasy Pros. Sanchi, do you want to start us off with the quarterback position?
Yeah, I have two, man. If you load up on skill players and you go late quarterback, I like Derek Carr at 107.3, and I like Kirk Cousins at 116.7. I think both of these guys are going to outperform what they did last year. I love the Vikings. I have them as a dark horse to make the Super Bowl. I think that offense is going to be great. You take Derek Carr, you give him Devontae freaking Adams. What do you think is going to happen? You think he's going to get worse? Healthy Waller? I don't. If I'm going 0 RB, I would prefer to take them both and just play the matchups. If I could get Carr and Cousins and just play the better matchup, if I go QB late, I'm not mad at it.
Carr and Cousins, man, they're another one like, the Jalen Hurts stat I was talking about before, where he finished last year and he's still being drafted in that spot. Every time I go back and look at outlying stats from last season, I posted one a few weeks ago on Twitter that I'm trying to find. Here we go. So list of quarterbacks with 4,000 plus passing yards in each of the last 4 seasons: Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr. Not a bad list. Since that time, Rodgers' wide receiver 1 has gone to Derek Carr, who finished as the QB 13 last year. Carr's current ADP at the time I posted this stat, QB 15. So he got lower since getting Devontae Adams, which makes no sense.
He's cracking that 12, man. He's cracking that top 12.
Good.
I have a feeling.
I thought that might happen. Because of that tweet specifically, he bumped up a few places in ADP.
Look at you, man. Shifting the game up.
Sinker, who do you like at QB?
Yeah, man, I wrote down Derek Carr. I'm on
Great
Derek
minds.
Carr as well. But, this is the best roster that he's had. New head coach. Devontae Adams is elite. So, yeah, I mean, I'm on Derek Carr as well. I'm buying in on that. I'm looking at Derek Carr. If I'm waiting on quarterback, I'm picking him every single time. If I can't get Trey Lance as like the 12th quarterback off the board, I'm looking at Derek Carr. If it doesn't work out, I'll just stream a quarterback. That's kind of how I'm going into it. But
that's the beauty of the late round dart throw. I love Derek Carr as like a steady, reliable QB2. And I like him as a late round, flyer in a single quarterback league. But if I'm going that route, I usually like to swing for the fence and take a guy who could potentially really finish as like a top 8 option. And for me, it's Daniel Jones this year.
Oh, baby.
Sanchi,
man.
You're
it's
welcome.
getting hot in here.
You can. I'll take a clip of that audio and I'll make it your cell phone ringtone if you want. But
yeah,
before his
Please
Week 5 concussion last year, Daniel Jones was the quarterback 8 overall and in points per game at 23.3 points per game. It's a small sample size, but he's got the potential to play at that level. Just mobility is so broken for quarterbacks in fantasy, and I feel like it's still somehow underrated. Like, people look at it for the top options, like the Kyler Murrays, the Jalen Hurts, and they're giving them their due upside because of the rushing, but they're not looking at the later guys like the Daniel Jones, the Justin Fields, who can still produce on a high level for fantasy in bad offenses. And I think that's maybe what we're going to see. Worst case scenario is Daniel Jones producing well despite a bad offense, but best case scenario, they just drafted the best offensive tackle in the draft, Evan Neal, number 7 overall. And Jones needed that protection because he was getting the crap beat out of him last year.
It was ugly.
And
it was ugly.
It was hard to watch, so I didn't watch a lot of their games. Sanchi, I'm sure you're probably in therapy right now, just from the violent imagery you were subjected to on a weekly basis. But this is a big year for Jones, man. He's really got to prove to New York that he's the guy. He's the long-term answer. I think they just declined his option, right? His 5th-year option. Is that?
They declined it.
Yeah, so he's got a lot to prove this year, man. And last season he was playing behind PFF's 3rd worst graded offensive line. So I think that they're going to take a big step forward in that department this year. He's got the number 1 easiest projected strength of schedule for quarterbacks this year. And you can't always tell from preseason projections for strength of schedule. It's not something I pay attention to as like a tiebreaker, except when it's like the extremes, right? Like if we're coming to the year saying, okay, he's projected to have out of all 32 teams the easiest schedule, or conversely, if we're looking at like a defense saying, oh my God, they're projected to face all the best offenses, then I pay some attention. In this case, it's kind of just icing on the cake for me. He's got a decent corpse of pass catchers. Kenny Golladay, we'll see what he is at this point in his career, but it feels like there's always so many good potential wide receivers with upside buzzing around the Giants in recent years. Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney, Wan'Dale Robinson. We'll see what he is.
Shepard, you might not see him.
Oh, might not see him. Is he hurt?
Yeah, he's banged up. It's going to be a lot of Wan'Dale. He's a good dart throw.
Is Darius Slayton still on that team? And does it matter?
He is, and it doesn't matter. Don't draft Darius Slayton.
That was
I've
weird,
streamed
man. I
that
feel
guy
like,
so many times.
yeah, he
In
popped for like a minute.
DFS, me
Was
I
too.
just
it
feel like I'm always throwing him in there. He's cheap, and I'm like, this dude can catch a touchdown.
was it off the field stuff with Slayton? I feel like I never really got
It wasn't
closure.
off the field stuff. Like him and Jones had such a good connection early
Mhm.
on, and then the guy just started dropping everything.
Okay.
Can't be trusted. I'm in on Tony. I'm in on Wandell, and I like Galladay as a dark throw too. It's, as I said, it can't get worse than last year. There's nowhere to go but up. Galladay was banged up. It's a whole different offense. That's a spoiler for one of my wide receiver picks, but
There you go.
Kenny G, we forget how good he was. Like, why not take him for free? If he sucks
Yeah.
for 3 weeks, you cut him.
Yeah, and I don't want to put too much into Brian Dable coming to town because I want to give Josh Allen the credit that he's due for just being a great quarterback. I don't want to say that Brian Dable, was the cause of that, but
Anyone but
I
Jason
think-
Garrett, man.
Yeah, exactly. I think that getting away from Garrett is the bigger takeaway from the coaching staff change. And, even if he's not the one who brought Josh Allen to greatness, he knows how to work with a quarterback with a similar skill set, and I think that that's encouraging. So, Daniel Jones, my pick, and if it doesn't work out, I'm gonna burn this tape, and we're never gonna speak of this again. So, let's move
Sanchi loves
along
that.
to
I
the
love it.
wide receiver position. Sinker, who do you got at wide out after ADP 100?
Yeah, I'm in on Christian Kirk. I think
love
you
that
know,
pick.
I'm following the contract. I expect a big uptick from Trevor Lawrence. I know this is a Sanchi guy. Sanchi loves Trevor Lawrence. I expect
Sure.
big things. I think people are underestimating the Jaguars offense. I think they're going to be a lot better than what you saw last year. I think they're going to get a run game going. And then I'm following the money. I think Christian Kirk, if I can get him that late, the ADP I had was like 104, so it's right on that ledge. But if I can get him there, he's a guy that could be, definitely a wide receiver 2 for me.
So my concern with Christian Kirk and the contract situation, we just talked about following the money and following the actions of the teams. I feel like that applies to 31 out of 32 teams universally. And then Jacksonville, it's like they have to pay a lot more to get people to come to town. They call that the Jaguars
sure.
tax. And that being said, I think that if Jacksonville takes a step forward with Trevor Lawrence and with Urban Meyer out of town, Christian Kirk's going to have to be good. Like they really have no other option. It's going to have to run through him and the running game. And I think he's talented enough to do it. I liked him in Arizona. I think that he just was kind of overshadowed by even greater talent over there. But no reason why Christian Kirk shouldn't see a ton of targets this year, and no reason why he can't do something with them. So, great pick, Sanchi.
I mean, for me, it's just a volume thing too, right? So it's like you said, everyone loves Cooks this year because Cooks is going to get the ball.
Mhm.
Christian Kirk is going to get the ball. So you just chase those targets. I mean, he might not be the sexiest wide receiver, but if you're getting 10, 12 looks a game, I mean, that's what you want.
Christian Kirk
follow
going wide
the money.
receiver 41 right now.
That's crazy to me.
As a wide receiver 1 for an NFL
That's crazy
team,
to me.
32 NFL teams with wide receiver 1s, Christian Kirk's going 41. So do the math.
It's great value. I already said Kenny Galladay is worth the dart throw to me. That's not a homer thing. That's just Giants are only going to get better. Speaking of Arizona, how about a guy named Rondell Moore? DeAndre Hopkins is out for 6 weeks. Hollywood Brown can't slow down. Can't catch the ball either. We'll see what happens with his old college QB. But he's going to get those top corners. Rondell Moore's still a young guy. Not everyone hops in the league and turns into Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. Some of these young receivers, they need time to develop. And, Rondell Moore as a young receiver on which should be a good offense with Kyler Murray, a healthy Kyler Murray. I think he's worth the pick at 114.6. Any of these guys over ADP 100, you want to go with upside. And if it doesn't work out, you got them late. You could cut them. You could cut them quick. You don't feel too bad. Rondell Moore, Kenny Galladay. I'm not crazy about Claypool, but at 105.8, I think I wouldn't be mad taking the risk. And with the Mike Evans yearly hammy injury, Julio Jones, 122.
My least favorite tradition in football.
Yeah.
Julio Jones, I know people are counting him out, but he's never had Tom Brady, man.
I mean, you got to think Claypool's touchdowns are going to go up, right?
I want to talk a little bit about Claypool with you guys because the fantasy community is scared to death of him right now after kind of a letdown season last year. I think a lot of people got burned taking kind of mid-round picks on him last season with the hope that he was going to take that step forward. And if you didn't watch the games and you're just looking at box score, it's easy to say, oh, he just fell off and he's not it. But I think what was happening was that Roethlisberger, I mean, Claypool's a downfield target guy, and he's going to catch those big air yard 50-50 passes that Ben was not throwing last year because he didn't have time to.
He couldn't.
He was catching the ball and getting it out of his hands before Claypool, was 5 steps down the field. I think that's going to change this year with Mitch Trubisky, presumably under center. Not saying Mitch is a great downfield passer, but he is a lot more mobile than Big Ben was at this stage in his career. He's going to be able to buy some time, get out of the pocket, give Claypool time to get down the field, get open. It wouldn't surprise me to see Claypool do a lot better with a less accurate passer, but somebody who could, like I said, buy him some time to get open. So I think there's a world where, yeah, it's a great price. He's going, I think he's wide receiver 50 I saw, but I'll take another look at that to vet it. Yep, 50 on the nose right now for Chase Claypool, which for his upside and just where people were at on him last year, I think is too big of a pendulum swing. George Pickens also in Pittsburgh right now. Not too worried about him, at least this year, taking targets away from Claypool. But if you do want to wait on him, Pickens is going 70. If you want to throw a late, dart throw, I think that it's similar logic because he's kind of a similar player.
Everyone thought Deontay would be gone next year, but they just extended him. So
that is true. I was shocked to hear that, to be honest. But
he's a baller. I'm glad he got some cash. The guy's damn good.
Yeah, I mean, not to get off topic, but where are you guys with him? I mean, all off season I've been kind of battling that. I'm like, do I want this guy? Do I not? For me, there's other targets in that range that I tend to go to.
That's my problem.
And it's one of those things, though. I feel like I might get burned on this. I could see him, being that guy again, being elite. Just from production standpoint, I know he's got to hold on to the ball, but.
So I'm really surprised right now looking at his ADP because I feel like expert rankings, anyone you'll see in full PPR has him in that kind of like 14, 15 range. He's going on underdog right now. He's going 23, wide receiver 23. Yeah. So I think that everybody is scared to death of him. He's going around like Brandon Cooks, Jerry Jeudy, Gabe Davis. I think he's a little more palatable in that range. But Sanchi, where are you on Deontay Johnson?
I mean, I've seen him get it done with Mason Rudolph, man. I think he's
right.
I think he's QB proof. I think he's just a fantastic wide receiver. And out of all those guys you mentioned, I'm not taking him over Jeudy, but I'm taking him over the other ones. He's around that range. And if no one else I likes out there, I'm definitely I know the talent's there. I know he's an elite talent. As I said, I think he's quarterback proof. He got it done with Noodle Arm Ben, Mason Rudolph. Yeah. I think he could get it done with any of these guys. So
I agree with that, but I don't think that his success was off the strength of Ben Roethlisberger's talent. So to say that he's succeeding with Mason Rudolph despite that drop off, I think that they both as quarterbacks have the same problem, which is that they both had to get the ball out to a safety valve immediately or get killed. So interesting to see him with more of a mobile scrambler in the backfield, but I like him around that 24 range. But if people are taking him like 14, 15, too rich.
Yeah.
So my wide receiver, just to finish us out at that position, and I'll be quick here because I see that we're coming up on an hour. I have Jalen Tolbert for the Cowboys. I think he's going to be a week 1 starter over there as their wide receiver 2. Michael Gallup expected to miss multiple games to open the 2022 season from the injury that he suffered last year. James Washington, who I wasn't super worried about anyway, but he suffered an injury to his right leg during training camp. He's going to need surgery. He's expected to miss 6 to 10 weeks. So, big time passing offense in Dallas and nobody to throw to outside of CeeDee Lamb. So I think those targets are going to go a little bit to Jalen Tolbert.
Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz. I love this year. I think that he's being underdrafted. I think that Zeke has some upside as a pass catcher in that backfield. I think that there's room for him to be a 50, 60 target guy and still let Tony Pollard get a lot of carries out of the backfield. So
they're talking about sending Pollard vertically downfield, man.
Oh, I love that.
Go deep.
Yeah.
I mean, as we said before, I like Pollard a lot.
Look, the offense last year in Dallas was third in the NFL in passing touchdowns last season and second in passing yards, and they finished first in both points for and total yards. So it's going to be an offense that puts up a lot of points. Those yards, those touchdowns have to go somewhere. I think Tolbert, is not going to slot in as a clear-cut second receiving option on the team, but as the wide receiver 2, I mean, he's going right now at pick 118 overall, and I just think that there's not a lot of guys in that range with as much upside and, frankly, as much floor. I think that he's going to get targets, and I think he's going to do all right with them. So I don't really see a world where he is not worth a shot there. So let's move over to running backs. Sanchi, who do you got at running back after ADP 100?
I mean, I'm going back to I want a piece of Denver, man. Melvin Gordon, 110.2.
Is he after 100 right now? 110?
I think he is, yeah.
Late. That's way too late.
I mean, how you going to let a guy that's gonna get red zone opportunities and on such a good offense now with Russell Wilson? And as I said, Javonte goes down, you get Melvin Gordon at ADP over 100, you just struck gold, my friend. As I said, if I'm taking Javonte, I want to snag Gordon with him for that reason, just in case one does go down. But I think both have good values this year. I think they're both gonna. I know we talked about Javonte being the clear-cut one. I don't know if I see that with Gordon there, but I think they're both going to get burned. I think Denver's offense is going to be one of the best in the leagues, and I'm just in on them, and I want a piece. And over ADP 100, Melvin Gordon 110, definitely taking him there.
I like him as a solid flex guy in that range, and obviously the upside is ridiculous should anything happen to Javonte. So he's a step above a handcuff. I think he's got plenty of standalone value and a great offense, and that is much too late of a draft spot for him. So great pick. Sinker, who you got for running back?
Yeah, I'm in on Dameon Pierce, Texans running back. So another, Twitter hyped guy. The Texans are saying he looks the best out of the group. His main competition is Marlon Mack. I know a sleeper favorite there, but Rex Burkhead. I was doing a little research on him this morning. So the player profile comp is Chris Carson, which was interesting to me. I just think opportunity is there. I think the Texans are going to be a little bit better than what everyone's predicting. I think they're going to, win more games. Mills is not a bad quarterback.
He's I think he's good.
Yeah, but he's
all right.
He's going to be exactly. So, yeah, I mean, what I look for late in a draft is I typically hammer running back to just fill out my bench. I'm looking for upside. I'm looking for handcuffs, guys that, will win you a league. He's the type of guy for me, after 3 or 4 weeks, if Burkhead gets 8 carries for no yards, I mean, I think let the rookie cook,
Yeah. I mean,
how do we feel about Algier? Sorry to cut you off.
No.
Yeah.
Algier in Atlanta. How do we feel about him?
Yeah, I mean, I like him, but I just think that the Falcons offense has so many weapons. I don't think they're going to be good, man. So they're going to be trailing games, and I don't know. It could be the same situation, but I think the opportunity is bigger for Pierce.
Could be the Kyle Pitts show in Atlanta.
Just a word of caution for Pierce to look the best in the Texans' backfield. I don't think it says that all that much. I mean, he could be mediocre and still look great next to those guys, but
for sure,
I think he's good, man. I think he's a good prospect coming out of college, and he's going to have a big opportunity there.
Just all upside for me, man. I mean, if I can get an RB1 on a team, I mean, that's what I'm looking for. So,
yeah, you don't draft floor late in the draft. You don't draft for floor. You draft for that ceiling.
Yeah, where's he even being drafted right now? Dameon Pierce, RB 42. Again, guys in that early 40 range who are going to lead, the position on their team and 32 team list of teams in the NFL. Again, do the math. I love it.
Worth a shot.
Yeah, so the guy I'm going to throw a dart at for running back is James Cook on the Bills. This is, I need to qualify this by saying I'm really only looking at him in a full PPR format, not so much in standard and half, but I do like Devin Singletary as a player. I think that he is a little underrated as a runner, Devin Singletary, but I still think the majority of his touches are going to come between the 20s. I don't really think Singletary is a goal line guy, I guess, on that roster, assuming Zach Moss goes away. I think Singletary will be the goal line back, but I just don't think that that's what they do in the red zone in Buffalo. I
Allen's
think that
the goal line back.
exactly. They're going to keep the ball in Josh Allen's hands. He's either going to be pushing it himself or throwing it. And, James Cook already reported out of training camp to be seeing pass catching work, which is what we expected. That's probably why he was drafted. Second round draft pick, so plenty of draft capital and an offense that was top 5 in passing attempts last year. So they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders gone, vacating 184 targets in one of the best passing offenses in football. So
Gabe Davis
is going to get some of that. Crowder's going to get some of that. Knox is going to get some of that. But I don't think that there's much more room for Diggs to get more. He already got over 160 targets last year. He might go up to like 180, 185, but that still leaves 150 plus targets, and I don't think that they're all going to Gabe Davis, Crowder, and Knox. So give me some James Cook out of the backfield. At that price, I mean, I could be wrong, and I can cut him, and that's fine. Or he could be, potentially a back end running back too in a full PPR format if he gets a ton of targets in a great offense. So I will take that pathway to success all day, every day, gentlemen.
He's Dalvin Cook's brother. He has to be a stud, right?
Yeah,
dude, it runs in the family. And if they have a third brother, I'll draft him too.
Yeah, the reports out of camp is saying that his hands, no other running back on the roster has got hands like him. So that's always something good to hear. I mean, if he's catching balls from Josh Allen on third down, I mean that's
nice.
Yeah, exactly.
But I will not believe. I'm not counting out Singletary either, though. I think they're both going to be pretty solid. But Singletary towards the end of last year really impressed me. Like the way he was running, they finally gave him carries and let him loose.
I know.
And he looked really good, and I think he can also be a late round guy.
This is like our third, fourth year now going into the Buffalo Bills backfield, where I feel like there have been flashes of Singletary where we're like, oh, he's finally the guy, and then there's been like flashes of Zach Moss where we're like, oh, they're finally committing to Zach Moss, and I'm at the point where I don't really believe that either of them are the guy anymore. I don't think that that's the way that team is built, and I don't think that's going to change. I hope it does, because I think Singletary is a great player, but I don't think we're ever going to see a world where he's getting like 220, 250 carries out of the backfield, Singletary.
Yeah.
But again, it's a great offense, so he might not need it.
It's not how Buffalo operates, but I do like James Cook at the price. Pass catching back. As I said before, those pass catching running backs are fantasy gold, and for that cheap, why the hell not?
Yeah, if Zach Moss isn't involved, I think there's room for them both to be kind of low end running back twos in a PPR format. Wouldn't surprise me at all. So let's close this thing out.
Zach Moss stinks.
He does stink, but that does not
he does suck, man.
Doesn't mean they're not going to use him. So let's talk some tight ends. Sanji, who do you like at the tight end position?
Well, it was Irv Smith, but now he's hurt again. So
yeah,
I'm gonna Big Irv. I've been a believer since the jump, and every year I feel, man, like his thumb already. I'm gonna go with now the corpse of Jared Cook is gone. I'm gonna go with Gerald Everett at 156.2. That offense is going to be freaking awesome. He's way faster and more athletic than Cook was at that stage in his career. And, and obviously Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Eckler. But you got for a late round tight end, I want a good tight end on a good offense. And I think Gerald Everett's the guy to snag very late, like last round late. And as we said, at that price, if it doesn't work out, you start streaming. You get someone else. But give me someone that Justin Herbert's going to throw to.
Yeah, a lot of mouths to feed there, but it's going to be another one of those high-octane offenses where there's a lot of room for relevance. There is some training camp buzz about Donald Parham getting a lot of usage, but I don't think he overtakes Everett. So I like that pick a lot. High upside. If I'm taking late round, like late round dart throws at tight end, I want guys on good offenses. So. Great pick. Sinker, where you at on tight end?
Yeah, I'm at Pat Fryermuth. The Muth is loose, baby.
Baby Gronk.
Yeah, man. For sure. He's just a big red zone target. I know, a lot of that could be tied to Ben Roethlisberger. But I think that continues on in the next year. I think in the red zone, he's the guy they're looking at. For his ADP, where you're getting him, I think it's a safe pick there.
You might not get 135 overall, tight end 13.
Yeah, I mean, you might not get the large yard games, but there's games where he's going to catch 2 touchdowns, 1 or 2 touchdowns. And for me, that's what I'm looking for in a tight end. If I'm not getting one of the early guys, I'm trying to find the guy who's catching a touchdown. So he checks the boxes for me. That's where I'm going late.
Is he somebody you're streaming if you get him late, or do you feel comfortable as like your every week starter with Fryer, depending on his early season performance?
I mean, for me with tight end, if I'm not getting one of the big guys, I'm streaming tight end. So if he's not returning value, I'm not worried about cutting him. I think he has the ability to be an everyday weekly starter though. But again, I'm not tying myself to him. I've streamed tight ends, for the past 10 years. I feel like I'm always just trying to grab a guy late. I lucked in last year. I took Irv Smith late. He got hurt. I ended up getting Gronk. Used him for a while. I mean, it's all about just finding a guy. I feel like the tight end, you can do that. Just try to find the matchup and get a touchdown.
Yeah, there's enough availability at that position to do that. I really don't think you need to commit to a weekly starter unless you're spending significant draft capital at tight end, which I almost never do. But sometimes there's value to be had, like a George Kittle slipping to the 5th or the 6th or something. But looking at the ADP, I think probably the last guy where I would draw the line on feeling comfortable with every week starters, probably Zach Ertz at tight end 10. He's going out because I think he's going to get a ton of work in Arizona with Hopkins out. He's going after like Dawson Knox, Dallas Goedert, like all those guys. You have to at least, I think, give a chance to be one of those regular starters for your team. That's not to say you should be married to them and be afraid to cut them if they're not getting it done for you. But I'm going to also pick a guy a little bit outside of that range who I'm looking to stream and maybe give the opportunity to be a full-time starter, because I think out of all the guys in this like 12, 13, 14 range, Cole Kmet has the best chance of taking that next step. We're looking at him as a top 7-8 option next year. This is my homer pick for the day. I'm taking Cole Kmet, and I'm going to tell you why. Jimmy Graham, finally a free agent. Finally. I don't think he's coming back. If he does, this all changes, and Cole Kmet is dead to me. But assuming that doesn't happen, he's really got no target competition in Chicago outside of Darnell Mooney. It's not going to be a great offense. I'm not going to promise you a high range of scoring opportunities, but it's still an NFL team. They're going to throw the ball, and it's got to go somewhere. And I think most of it's going to go to Mooney and Kmet. The Bears, I have seen probably better than anybody on this show that they've been trying for years and years and years to get a regular, consistent option at tight end. It's a big part of their offensive scheme, regardless
Trey Burton.
Oh man. All right, that's all the time we have for today, folks. But honestly, yeah, that's what that was going out, getting like a Trey Burton, getting Jimmy Graham, drafting who was that guy we spent a first or a second on not that long ago? I'm gonna have to look it up. I've suppressed his name in my memory because it's too emotionally painful, and Sanchi's Googling it as we speak. He was like a basketball player in college who had played like 5 games of football. And we were like, you know what, that's good enough for us, and we drafted him, and he surprisingly did not hit. I think Cole Kmet is finally the answer that we're looking for at tight end in Chicago. Per Andrew Erickson of Fantasy Pros, Cole Kmet's 8th ranked route participation and 7th ranked target share, which 17% from 2021, doesn't really line up with his fantasy production. No tight end finished with more fantasy points under expectation at 36.5. Than Cole Kmet did in 2021. So that's just kind of one of those statistical indicators that we look at for potential steps forward. We saw the same thing with like Zach Ertz, Dawson Knox in 2020, and they both finished as top 10 points per game options in 2021. So,
he's got JP Holtz, Deion Sims, Logan Paulson. I'm going Zach Miller. I'm going all. You know what? They all suck.
They all sucked. They all sucked, and that's not even the guy I'm thinking of.
Oh man,
but I vaguely remember who you're talking about, but I can't remember the name either. It's the basketball comparison for me.
Exactly. Kmet has the numbers. He has the size and the athleticism. 87th percentile height, vertical jump, broad jump, all in that range. He's got the skill set. I think he takes a step forward this year. He's a guy that I'm drafting and hoping to steal an every week starter. I'm going to look up this name while I kick it back to you guys and ask, are there any other tight ends you want to give honorable mentions to? I mean, I feel like the majority of tight ends are drafted after ADP 100, so there's probably a couple of gems maybe worth mentioning. Let me know.
I've seen some analysts in on Evan Ingram, and I'm just going to tell you not to do that.
Adam
Thank me
Shaheen.
later.
It was Adam
Oh,
Shaheen. That's the
man.
guy I'm thinking of. And I feel like we drafted him with the intent of becoming what I think Cole Kmet is about to become.
He played basketball. He has to be the next Antonio Gates, right?
Exactly.
That's what they were thinking.
Right.
So what's the concern with Evan Ingram?
His hands.
Yeah, you tell us, Sanchi. New York boy.
Before every game, he melts butter and he just rubs it on his gloves. so when the ball comes, it slips right through, right to the D-back.
I want to say that can't be true, but I'm not sure. Like I'm like 50.
Man, I thought Evan Ingram was going to break out. I
I
bought him in Dynasty. Like, it was terrible, man. It was a bummer, but yeah, I thought he was the next big thing at tight end.
It just goes to show that just because you're a freak athlete doesn't mean you're a good football player.
For sure.
So take that with a grain of salt when everyone says, "Oh, he's a freak athlete." Well, can he play football? Can he catch a football?
Yeah,
that's a great point. He's in Jacksonville now competing with Christian Kirk for targets, so I think that's another +1 for your Christian Kirk pick earlier, Sinker. Any tight ends you want to give an honorable mention to before we wrap this thing up for the day?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier, Njoku. If Watson's playing, and even if he's not, I mean, it's just a guy I'm looking at. It's more of a stream pick. Just take a look at him. I mean, it's not worth picking him to hold on your roster, but I wouldn't be surprised if he creeps into top 15, top 12.
Yeah, I think that's a smart pick. Sinker, this was great, man. Thanks for joining us today. I'm glad you were able to make it over to your buddy's house. Thank you again to Steven for making this show possible today. Big time shout out. I hope your power's back on when you go home later. I don't know what's going on over there, but
it's funny. I got a text from my girlfriend like 2 minutes before this show started. She's like, the power came back on. So I would have been safe at home, but you can't risk it, right? You gotta
I
get
told you, man, our fantasy football
sure.
calling rivals strike again.
Yeah. I'm glad we're all in a best ball league together with Spencer, who was also on the show. So that should be a high competitive league. And
big time friend of the show, Spencer the Guru. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I've been grinding best ball a lot, man. So I'm ready.
It's my first one. It's my first one.
Really?
Tis the season.
Nah. I just don't want to talk about my addictions on air.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think everyone who knows me knows I'm usually in a best ball slow draft. So.
Well, Sinker, why don't you remind the people how they can get to know you, where they can find you on Twitter, so on and so forth, and what to expect from your platform over there.
Yeah, man, you can follow me on Sinker FF. This is the first year I'm really going to try to start producing some content. I've been a fan of fantasy for a long time. I think it's fun to just kind of get in here and produce some content. So give me a follow at Sinker FF, or on Sleeper. I'm always jumping around a mock and looking for leagues there. So.
Well, welcome to the fantasy space, man. You're a natural, and we're glad to have you here. Hope we get you back on later in the season.
Yeah, boys, appreciate it.
So we'll be live with another expert guest every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, just like this, for the entire rest of the NFL regular season and probably into playoffs. You can subscribe to and stream Fantasy Fanline live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, or you can find us the next day on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social platforms at Fantasy Fanline, and visit our website, fantasyfanline.com, for a schedule of our upcoming guests and to submit a question to our mailbag if you can't join us live for the next show. For Sanchi Value, once more, I'm Greg Scalera. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time on Fantasy Fanline. Goodbye, everybody.